Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pottscast. It is the MMA edition here of the Pottscast. I'm Darren Potts, the host, as always, here on the Pottscast. As a reminder, you can find us on all forms of social media at PottsPods, Pottss, Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else. But today's guest, she has a fight coming up next Friday in California. It is Jasmine Pouncy. Jasmine, welcome to the show. Delighted to get you on.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Delighted to get you here. And obviously, the reason why we're talking is there's a big event next Friday night, LFA 127. You're fighting on that card. Talk to me a little bit about your preparation for the upcoming event on Friday.
Um, well, preparation's always the same for all of my fights. We don't have like a home gym that we train out of, so we train in the elements wherever we could get it in at the parks. That's where I am now. We train at the beach, on hills. We team up with some gyms sometimes. Like I train at Fight Science like once a week, and out in Linwood at Combat Concepts with my jiu-jitsu guy, Derek Jones, and yeah, we get it in like that.
Old school, get it in. Just make sure you get the work done, and you're working really hard for the upcoming fight. Someone I think you should check out. It's a guy called Ray Cooper the third. He's a welterweight champion in PFL. He has trained in his garage his whole career, and he still trains in his garage. And every year he goes into the PFL, that welterweight competition. He's won the last two of them, and it's just him in his garage with his dad. Hard work, running the roads, old school style of training, and I think it's really, really cool and really unique and really special.
It is. I mean, I feel like we have to, we don't have the equipment that everyone else has in these bigger gyms, so we kind of have to go harder than everybody else. So I think it's a underestimated grind that we have to get in.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And what it kind of brings us on to the next topic I want to touch on briefly is a little bit about you. So, for people who don't know you, and people who don't know what it's like to see you fight, what are we going to see from you Friday night, LFA 127? What type of fighter are you?
I'm a striker all day. My nickname is Tap Out Queen, but I fell in love with striking some years ago. I'm the throwing bombs. That's what I'm best for. My opponent is a jiu-jitsu girl, so definitely going to be, have to be on my toes, stuffing shots, defending takedowns. But most likely, you're going to see some heavy, fast striking from me.
Heavy, fast striking, fun to watch. Looking for that knockout. Where did the nickname the Tap Out Queen come from? Because you mentioned that's the nickname, but you love striking. You want to strike. So where does the Tap Out Queen nickname and that mantra? Where does that fit into your game?
When I originally started training at the age of 11, I started in jiu-jitsu. And I did jiu-jitsu straight for like 4 or 5 years. And there was always an older guy. His name was Sifu Don. He would come into our dojo. And while I'm doing jiu-jitsu, while I'm wrestling with the guys and the kids and stuff, he would always be at the door yelling. And he was like, "Go on, queen. Go on, queen." And so I would always tap people out at that time. So it just kind of meshed the two together and got Tap Out Queen. And it just
Tell,
kind of stuck. That's how people knew me growing up. So I just kept the name.
I mean, it's a brilliant nickname. It's an absolutely outstanding nickname. So credit to you
Thank
guys for,
you.
for, for, for coming up with that. Tell me a little bit about yourself then growing up, because you're growing up, you started jiu-jitsu around 11. You're now fighting in LFA. You've got, it's on UFC Fight Pass. It's a global audience. It's going to be watching you fight on Friday night. So that journey from 11 years old to now, try and tell me a little bit about of what it was like growing up and coming through jiu-jitsu. When did it become a thing for you to change from doing jiu-jitsu to mixed martial arts and wanting to be a professional fighter?
Like I said, I started jiu-jitsu at 11. My uncle and my dad have trained me my entire career. I actually hated it when I first got into it. I was 11. All I wanted to do was hang out with my friends, eat ice cream. I was running track and dancing at the time. So I'm like, who wants to roll around and get sweaty? Like, this is not something that I wanted to do. But I stuck with it. It took a few years for me to really, really like it. Um, about 5 or 6 years into it, I got into some smokers, did some kickboxing, and MMA fights. And that's actually when I started to grow a love for it. I did one smoker one day. I fought a girl and she had like a face mask on. Like, we have to wear headgear. And she had like a cage. So everything that I was hitting her with, she was just walking through it. And I had like a whole breakdown. I was crying. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I had another fight that day. So my coaches took me outside and talked to me. And they're like, you got one more. Do you want to do it? It's a boy. And I'm like, okay. They're like, everything you're feeling, just put it into that. And, and I whooped his ass. All the anger that I had, I'm like, yeah, I whooped his ass. And then from that day on, I loved it. I was like, yeah, I think I could do this. And as soon as I turned 18, like a week after my 18th birthday, I signed up for Camo, had my first Camo fight. And from there, I've been in it. I've had 17 amateur fights. So the fact that this was my second pro fight for LFA, I feel like I've seen a lot in my amateur career. So the nerves aren't too bad. I feel like I've seen most of everything that I'll get in pros, minus the elbows, knees to the head. But I feel like I'm really prepared for this.
It's phenomenal to hear that, that journey that you've went on. And I have to ask about it. You mentioned that like that's what gave you the passion, is really once you whooped that guy, you got the passion for it and you went for it. I didn't want to quote Dwayne The Rock Johnson there and go into a full WWE promo of whooping that guy's ass and stuff, but you whooped that guy and then you got the passion for it. Is that really what drives you? Is it a passion and a love for the sport, or what is the motivating factor behind you doing what you do?
So there's a few things. Of course, to do this sport, you've got to love it. I love the sport in and out, the ups and downs, everything that comes with it. But one of the main things that drives me to keep doing it is the end game. So one of my biggest things in life that I want to do is help homeless and mentally ill people. And I feel like this is the perfect platform to be able to use to do that, be able to make a change in the future. So that's one of the main things that drives me.
Well, that driving factor, obviously, you want to help people, but at the same time, you're building your own career and building your own legacy. And what's it like working with LFA? They pull a lot of local talent from the California area. They have a lot of cards in the California area. What are LFA like to work for, and what's it like for you to get that call to say, "Hey, let's go, let's fight LFA 127"?
I went to the last LFA show in New York. My teammate Lovis Patrick Young was fighting on the card, and just watching the experience behind the scenes with her, it was just like, damn, like I'm about to be doing this in a month. So it's exciting, to say the least. It's exciting. I'm excited to work with them, see where the career takes me. And I mean, everyone that becomes champ in LFA, 9 times out of 10 goes to the UFC. So this is my door right now. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
You're looking at LFA as an opportunity then. You mentioned everyone who gets champ, they usually get a chance to go to the UFC, but there's also like such a massive group of companies now in the MMA market, in terms of PFL, Bellator, there's so many that are opening up, Eagle has just started and things like that. The opportunity is there for young talent, to go to these bigger platforms. But I really enjoy the LFA cards. I think there's something just true and real about it. I don't know why I feel that way, but I get I get really gripped when I watch their shows. So I'm very excited for you
Yeah.
this Friday. Obviously, you mentioned you're at the field today to train, and it is fight week for you. Friday night is coming. What is fight week like for you? Do any nerves kick in? What happens in fight week? Is there a potential? Do you watch your weight? Do you do a potential weight cut? Tell me about this week leading up to LFA 127.
If I have a lot of weight to cut, it's kind of stressful because I'm hungry, I'm irritated, my family's eating, I'm just looking at them. But most of the time, fight week is pretty smooth for me. I cut my weight over a span of time. So as soon as I find out about a fight, I'm starting to cut weight so I'm not stressed and pressed about making weight. So it's really just going over last little bits and pieces of the game plan, getting my mind right, and just getting the last few pounds off. Fight week isn't really stressful for me anymore. Like I said, I had 17 amateur fights, so I had a lot of time to prepare for this.
You know, you've seen everything as you mentioned there in the amateur fights. You've had loads of time to prepare, so you've probably got the nerves under control. But is there an excitement leading into the Friday night?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of excitement, probably overexcitement, that leads into um like I said, I have to get my mind right because the overexcitement, then I get kind of anxious. So I'm like, I have to bring myself back down. But yeah, and the fact that this is LFA, of course, there's excitement, you know. So yeah, I'm excited.
So tell me about behind the scenes then. So before your music hits and you go to the walkout and you're doing your warm up and you're getting prepped behind the scenes, what's going through your mind in those last couple of minutes before fight time?
I want to get in there and get out of there so I can go eat. Because I mean, it usually takes, you eat in the morning, you're in the back all day, depending on what number of fights you are. So I'm just like, I'm hungry, I'm ready to get in and get out, and yeah.
Shout out to
Usually that's like the mindset.
I mean, shout out to Grant Dawson, the UFC fighter that I spoke to previously. You know, he mentioned, you know, the day before the fights at the weigh-ins, he was, you know, going face to face with someone. I can't remember who it was now, but the guy was sort of saying to him, "I'm going to kill you tomorrow. You're dead tomorrow." And Grant Dawson's kind of just going, "Man, I just want off this scale so I can get a Dr. Pepper and some food, man." Like, and I find that quite funny. And you're going in there going, "I just want to like get in, get out so I can eat." Like, so
Hmm.
I do have to ask, where are you going? After the fight, win, lose, draw, what's happening? Where are you going? What meal do you want?
I want some crab legs. I am a sucker for this place in LA. It's called Hot and Juicy. I'm a sucker for the boil in the bag crab. I'm a fat girl at heart. Okay, so really anywhere where I get some good food, a milkshake, I'm for it. But I really want to go to Hot and Juicy. I've been craving it for about 2 months now. So
Do you know what I'm craving? I'm craving getting across the border into the US again. You know, I'm right in Vancouver, Canada, just across the border from the US because I want to get the Jack in the Box because Jack in the Box have the best milkshakes in the world ever.
they do,
It's,
they do.
it's like what 1,500 calories per milkshake. I'm like, give it to me, inject that into my veins. I need that milkshake.
It's worth it. But I have a better milkshake place for you. If you're ever down here, there's a place in Hollywood called Fat Sal's. If you like fat shakes, they put cheesecake in their shakes, pretzels, caramel, all kind of stuff. That beats Jack in the Box all day.
I'm interested to see how they blend cheesecake into a milkshake. So Fat Sal's will be on my list. I aim to be in LA next March, April. I think it's penciled in for me, the missus, and our little newborn to get down to LA and spend some time. So Fat Sal's will be added to that list 100%. So your opponent then, this Friday night, do you do a lot of homework into your opponent, or do you trust your own game plan, go in there, do what you do?
She had two fights in LFA. I watched those fights. I don't like to get too stuck on what my opponent's gonna do though. It makes me get in my head and kind of derails my plan. So I watched them, and then after I watched them, I let my coaches focus on it, and then I just focus on what I have to do to go in there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You like just clear that head and keep that mental focus.
Right.
What about long term goals? You mentioned becoming champ in LFA and getting to the UFC. Is that the long term goal for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Or I mean, I'll go wherever the wind takes me. Like you said, there's a lot of other promotions, Eagle, FC, Bellator, PFL. I will go wherever the wind takes me. But of course, end goal, just to say I did it, I made it. UFC is the end goal.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, obviously, I wish you the best of luck Friday night. Wish you the best of luck, obviously, in your journey and in your desire to get into the UFC or even any of these other major promotions. I do have to ask about inspirations. Was there anyone who inspired you growing up to want to be a fighter, whether that be a UFC fighter, whether that just be your parents, your daddy, your uncle, someone pushing you in the right direction? Who inspired you to do what you do?
My uncle, growing up, I didn't watch fights until I didn't really start watching fights until I was like 20.
Mhm.
Like my coaches had to like force me to sit in a room with them. Like you're gonna watch these fights. Like how are you gonna fight and you don't watch fights? So for before that, it was my uncle. That's all I had to look up to. And then I started watching Chris Cyborg. And I'm like, damn, like she's a brawler. So that is number one inspiration right there.
I find it interesting, the cyborg stuff, because when people talk about like some of the best female fighters in the world, she does not get the credit she deserves. She is one of the all-time
Doesn't.
greats of MMA, and I actually think it's criminal that she doesn't get the credit that she deserves.
Yeah, but I feel like it just goes to show, uh it's sad to say, but fighting is more of a look. It's like, yeah, the skill is there too, but it's a look. And Cyborg has more of like a hardcore look that doesn't sell as much as the pretty girls like Paige Van Zandt, and you know. So I feel like that's the only thing, because I don't understand why she doesn't get the recognition she deserves. I mean, I'm gonna give it to her all day because, like I said, that's my girl. I mean, when I won my California State title, she put the belt on me. That was like a dream come true. So yeah.
No matter what happens in the rest of your career, that's a memory and that's something you can take with you, for the rest of your life, that one of the best fighters of a generation, probably female fighters of all time, put the belt on you at one of the biggest moments of your young life at that stage. And I just think that's a phenomenal thing to say that happened to
Absolutely.
you. So we're going to get to know you just slightly a little bit better. I'm going to fire some quick fire questions at you. So favorite TV show or guilty pleasure? What do you like to binge watch in your spare time?
Baking shows. 'Cause I love to bake, so I like watching baking shows.
Who's going to be in your corner this weekend?
My dad and my uncle. So my dad, Milton Johnson, and my uncle, Ellis Singleton.
Favorite music or favorite artist?
DMX, all time favorite artist.
Your walkout song this Friday?
Usually I will walk out to DMX. This Friday I'm gonna walk out to Throw It Up by Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. It's been getting me pumped this whole camp, so it's only right.
Brilliant, brilliant. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received from anyone?
From my mom, she's kind of hard on me when I used to half-ass the sport, and she would always just tell me like, "This is your life that you're playing with. So if you're gonna do it fully. Don't half-ass it. If you're gonna half-ass it, don't do it."
Phenomenal piece of advice. And I think it's a really appropriate way to end our conversation. And obviously, this Friday night, LFA 127. I'm excited to see you fight. Can't wait to put my feet up, get it on the TV with a big pizza or something stupid. I'll watch you fight. And I wish you all the best of luck. Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can any of my listeners connect with you on social media if they want to follow you, see what you're up to, see what's going on? Where are you located on Instagram, Twitter, etc.?
On Instagram at @TapOutQueen underscore. Twitter, same thing. I don't use it much. Probably gonna have to start, but same thing, @TapOutQueen underscore. Facebook, Jasmine @Queen Pouncy. And you can find my nonprofit that I'm getting in the works for my homeless drives, Pouncing on Poverty. That's on Instagram. And yeah, thank you for having me.
No worries. Well, it's been my absolute pleasure to get you on the show. I obviously wish you all the best for Friday night. So good luck. Excited to see you fight. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.